What's wrong if I'm looking at that one, that I can't do that? In number 7.
B is not in the right place.
B is not in the right spot. And if you do it this way, and you do it in your homework this way, it's most likely that however you practice, that's what you're going to do on your quiz and test. So if you practice it the wrong way, as much as I would love to say, oh great, you showed all your work, but if you don't do it right, you're not doing the checks every time, it is not good. So in this case, I did need to have b squared here, right? I needed this to be b squared, and I needed this to be 50 squared, and then I needed to show the work below that. Now, those of you that messed it up on your homework, tonight, you need to make sure you try and go back and correct where you got that wrong. And you might want to just do it on another sheet of paper instead of doing it here. So when you looked at these, and I'm looking at question 13 in particular, or 14. Which one should we look at, 13 or 14? 13. You'll have some just like this tonight's homework. It's something like this. So we start with a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And it's going to ask you to find that missing side. So we have a squared plus 2 squared is equal to the square root of 13, and we're squaring that. That means I have a squared plus 4 equals 13. And I subtract 4 from both sides, and I get a squared is equal to 9. And if you stop at this point, that's incorrect, because you need to go one step further and say 3. And they didn't have units with this, but just so you're in the habit, maybe you put 3 units. Someone said, what if I leave it as a equals the square root of 9? Well, square root of 9 equals 3, and so we always want to find what that length is. Okay? Questions? All right. So these real world problems, you might see something like this when we look at our tests that's coming up. And if you would look right now in your notes. So what I want you to do for writing down this Pythagorean theorem, I want you to copy down exactly what I have up here. I want you to copy down, the theorem says if. And starting with the word if, I want you to write that in your notes. Now, I want you to write down if a triangle is a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And someone said, do I have to write it exactly? Yes, please. So in your notes. Yes, please write it exactly. Why? Because as we are looking at this, it is important that you understand as you get into your upper level math what these theorems are. So, if a triangle is a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The second part of that, it says, in order for the Pythagorean theorem to work, what shape must it be? It must be a triangle. More particular than that, we want a right triangle. So please make sure you're writing down right triangle. Okay? And we're going to see today how we can show if it's an acute triangle or an obtuse triangle. Okay? If the triangle is a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that next part down in your notes, that's what we are going to be looking at as we work on our homework tonight. So it says, if you reverse the parts of the Pythagorean theorem, a new statement is made, and it's called the converse. And that's what our unit is today, the converse. That's the standard that we're looking at, that you can use the converse. And the converse says, if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then it's a right triangle. Now, what it also helps us do is determine if it's a right triangle. So, if it is equal, then it's a right triangle. We know that. If we have it being a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, then it's going to be an acute triangle. And if the last situation is, so today when you do your homework, my suggestion is going to be to put the equal, which we already know is right, the greater than is acute, and the less than is going to be an obtuse triangle. Okay? So, It says use the converse and check this. So this is what you're going to do in your homework. If you are still struggling with a squared plus b squared, turn to the top of the next page of your notes. I'm going to have you write that down. But this is what I need for the majority of problems on tonight's homework. I need you to write this. 6 squared plus 8 squared, question mark, right? This is what we're trying to determine, to 10 squared. Now in this case, we know this is 36, right? Plus 64. 36 plus 64 is 100. And 10 squared is 100. So it's equal, right? That's what our question mark, that's what we were trying to determine, and we found it was equal. Since it is equal, we are going to say what kind of a triangle is it? It says, is this a right triangle? Yes, right triangle. So we're going to start on this side. And I need you to put down on your homework again the 10 squared plus the 12 squared, because I want to see that you set it up right. Question mark to 16 squared. And I'm going to have 100 plus 144, which gives me 244. Remember, anyone remember their 16 squared? 256. So what happened? 244 is definitely less. So now you look back at the back page, and if it is a less, obtuse. So the question says, is it a right triangle? We would say no, it is an obtuse triangle. Okay? That's what you're going to kind of be doing, yeah. Same kind of thing, applying it, okay? So, as you look at these, it says, determine what kind of triangle. Show your work to justify. So what I want you to do is take those calculators out, because when you do this in your homework too, if they give you kind of some ugly numbers like these, 14 squared plus 17 squared. The question is, does it equal 23 squared? If you don't have calculators, start bringing it. Yes, and bring it every day. So 14 squared plus 17 squared. Put that in your calculator right now. And add it in your calculator. Put in 14 squared plus 17 squared. And if I'm looking at 14 squared plus 17 squared, so you haven't entered it in your calculator yet, so I'll give you a chance to do that. I should have 485. And now I put 23 squared in my calculator. 23 squared is 529. And the question is, determine what kind of triangle we have. This would justify your answer, that you show me that this number is definitely less than 529. So we would say it is an obtuse triangle. So it says determine, that's what we did down here. We said the type of triangle, that means it has an obtuse angle. And this is my showing of my work. That's what I mean for that. So please do the next two on your paper. Starting with the 22 squared plus the 120 squared. And the question is 122 squared. And show those numbers. Do the same thing with number 3. Since we have a less than, we are going to say again it was an obtuse triangle. Okay? So your homework kind of looks like this. Like I said, we are going to have a short homework quiz. But this one's just a little different, right? On the top of the next page. This one says, Hunter, question?
What happens if, like, say, like, the one that's outside square, what that's smaller than the...
If it is smaller, if the c squared is smaller, then we're going to call it an acute triangle. Okay? So remembering that a right triangle has one right angle, an acute has 3 acute angles, and an obtuse triangle It's really not drawn to scale. Like an obtuse triangle has one angle, right, that is greater than 90 degrees. So this angle is between 90 to 180 degrees, right? That's an obtuse, when we talk about an obtuse triangle, okay? So that's what we're going to look at as we do this. So this last one says, okay, find the missing side if it's a right triangle. Well, the right triangle is when we put what? A squared plus b squared, and it is equal to the square of the hypotenuse, c squared. When it's an acute triangle, Hunter, we're putting down the a squared, right, plus the b squared, and this is when this is less than c squared. Now, I'm still looking at both triangles, and I need to determine as I am looking at this. So what I'm looking at is I need to determine, well, what's my A, B, and my C? So, Addie, if we are thinking about this, in this first one, what do you want to use for your A?
12.
12 for A. I agree, 12 would work for A. What do we want to use for B? We don't have a B, so we're going to keep B. And then, Addie, keep going. C should be?
37.
C is going to be my longest. So I also know that B has to be less than 37, right? So I'm going to put 12 squared plus B squared, just like you did today's, 37 squared. Those of you that didn't finish the problems today, make sure you finish it, right? 37 squared. When you put that in your calculator, what am I looking at? Isaac. Grace, you got it? 1,369. And now I'm going to subtract 144 from both sides, right? And b squared is equal to 1,125. Elijah, what'd you get for square root of that? So again, if you leave that as your answer, I have to mark it wrong, right? We're looking at, we can't even leave this as our answer. We want to say that that is equal to
35.
35. Came out pretty nice, right? So the question said, find the missing side that would create a right triangle. Did you guys get 35? Okay. So the question was, what are the lengths that are going to create a right triangle? We're going to put down something like if B is equal to 35 what? Meters. Then we have a right triangle. So this one, we're looking at our picture. As I look at that picture, Hunter, start me off. What do you want to think of as your A?
There's no A.
There is no A? Okay, we'll go with A here. Going
So
A squared.
A squared plus 24 squared, and then get less than.
We're going to say that's greater than.
Greater than 25.
And again, you didn't have to have 24 and 25 squared memorized, so put them in your calculator, right? We're using our calculators for these. 24 squared, Janessa, did you get it yet? All right, let's write that down. Want to punch it in for me? 24 squared. Sorry, what did you say? 576. Greater than. Morgan, did you put in 25 squared yet?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
625.
625. Remember, what do I have to do to find A squared? What do I have to do to find A squared?
576 minus 625.
So subtract 625 from both sides?
Yes.
No.
If I subtract 625 from both sides, did I get rid of this 576 here? You told me subtract, you said 576 minus 625, right?
Yeah.
Did you mean subtract 576 from both sides?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So subtracting, that's different than subtracting 625, okay? So yes, writing down that we're subtracting, I agree. We want the A squared by itself. Timothy, when we put A squared then, and we do that subtraction, what'd you get? All right, so 625 minus 576 comes out as a positive number, right? It's actually a nice number, isn't it? Did you get it, Timothy? 49. Yeah. So, oh, the length is 49. Can it be 49? Is that possible in this triangle? No. This has to be the longest side of C, right? So those of you stopping at this point, you've got to be really careful and think, does it even make sense, the numbers? So A is going to be greater than the square root of 49, which is A has to be greater than 7. Now, in order for it to still be obtuse, we're not going to talk about the upper limit, but a lot of times in math classes you talk about that it really can't still be more than 25, right? So it could be anywhere, so it has to be less than 25 and greater than 7. We're just mostly looking at this part. So we're going to say, to make it an acute triangle, side A has to be greater. So side A has to be greater than 7 units. Oh, what if it's equal to 7 units? What kind of triangle?
It's right.
It's right, right? So someone was saying, well, can't you have this be greater or equal? No. It has to be greater than 7 units. So if you gave me an answer and you showed this working, you said, you know what, the side could be 10.2. Would that work? Would 10.2 be an answer that works for this one? A could be equal, it has to be anything greater than 7. So A equals 10.2, that works, right? Could I say A is equal to 17? Yeah, that's going to make it still an acute triangle. And you can't actually have it be more than 25. It'd have to actually be less than that. We're just considering what it's greater than. That's all we have to look at, okay? So, in your workbook, I believe, turn to page 18 in your workbook. Page 18 in your workbook. You see what I have up here? Yep. This is exactly right from the test. This is exactly right from the test, and it's page 18. And it's worth 12 out of the, it's like a third of your test grade. Explaining the Pythagorean theorem, okay? So these are the things that we're going to be looking at. And here's the test question. It says, write a paragraph explaining what you would say about them to the pattern you've discovered and how we found that pattern that we call the Pythagorean theorem. So I had someone say, you know, I know this is just this a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I had someone do that the very first day we started doing this. I had one of my students say to me, Ms. Thompson, I don't need to know how to do this. I just know that this is it. And that's great, and we are still using that, but I want you to think about, tell me the pattern. Use it in words. Make sure you explain the exact correct equation. You're going to have to write a paragraph on this. Now, the paragraph can be as easy as that first day when we started this, what did we do with our squares? We had 2 squares on the legs, and we cut them apart, and they covered that hypotenuse square, right? They covered that. That's all you were doing, right? That's one way of proving it. The other one we did on Friday of last week with those puzzle pieces, when we fit them in and showed that these two were equal when we did these puzzle pieces in class, and we showed that b squared plus a squared with the 4 triangles was equal to c squared plus the 4 triangles. I got more coming. Okay? So that, I just wanted to make sure that you see that this is, there should be one more going back. Okay? So that this is going to be something you're going to see again. Okay? Homework questions tonight. So if you turn back to the B5, this is just like we were doing this. You're going to determine whether the given triangle is the right triangle. These first ones are really yes/no answers. Do check your answer. Okay? Don't do all of them wrong and then have to redo the whole thing. Do 1 or 2 and check. So even if you want to put right here, check. So then you think, oh yeah, I gotta make sure I turn to the back and correct this and see if I'm doing it even close to correct, okay? For 7 through 10, that's where I need the formula. Okay, I need here the a squared plus the b squared equals the c squared. I do not need it for 1 to 6 or 11 to 14. But my hint when you get to question number 15 is you might want to draw a rectangular swimming pool and put the dimensions around it, okay? So that you can think about what you're doing, okay?